1920, a series of fairy photographs captured the world's attention. They were taken by cousins Frances Griffiths and Elsie Wright, while Elsie was playing in the garden of her home in the village of Cottingley. Photographic experts examined the photographs and declared them real. Spiritualists presented the photographs as proof of the existence of supernatural beings, and despite criticism from skeptics, the photographs became some of the most recognizable images in the world. However, the truth was revealed decades later in the late 1970s. During World War I, 10-year-old Frances Griffiths moved into the Wrights' home in England with her aunt and uncle while her father was away at war. Frances and her 13-year-old cousin Elsie often spent time together in the family's large garden in the village of Cottingley. In July 1917, they borrowed Elsie's father's camera and asked to take pictures of the fairies playing throughout the morning. Elsie's father cheerfully agreed and showed them how to use the camera. An hour later, the girls returned and said their project had been a success. When Mr. Wright took out the photograph, he noticed that a fairy posing with Frances was actually visible. However, he dismissed the girls' claims, thinking the photograph was a hoax. A little over a month later, when they took a second photograph of Elsie with a dwarf, her father considered the images a prank and archived them. Elsie's mother, Polly Wright, was a great believer in the supernatural and was fascinated by the photographs. In 1919, she attended a conference on spiritualism and asked a speaker if they were real. The speaker brought the photographs to the attention of Edward Gardner, a leader in the Theosophical movement, and Gardner asked photographer Harold Snelling to examine them. Snelling confirmed that the photographs were not forgeries. After this confirmation, the fairy photographs began to spread throughout the British spiritualist community and soon caught the attention of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, author of Sherlock Holmes. Doyle believed deeply in spiritualism and saw the photographs as definitive proof of supernatural fairy existence. With Doyle's encouragement, the girls took 3 more photographs of the fairies in August 1920. Doyle defended these photographs in an article published in the December 1920 issue of The Strand magazine. The article brought the photographs to a wide audience and sparked an international debate between spiritualists and skeptics. In addition to the obvious problems, such as the fairies looking like pieces of paper, skeptics noted many shortcomings in the photographs. For example, why wasn't Frances looking at the fairies in the first photograph? The girls said they were so used to the fairies that they often didn't pay attention to them. And why didn't the second fairy from the left have wings? Why does Elsie's hand look oddly long in the second photograph? Frances attributed this to camera tilt. Why is the fairy wearing modern French clothing in the fourth photograph? Despite all these problems, the photographs continued to appeal to believers. This belief can be explained by the context of the period. At the end of World War I, the British were emotionally exhausted and wounded after 4 years of war. They seemed to be looking for something to reaffirm their belief in goodness and innocence, and they found that confirmation in Frances and Elsie's fairy photographs. James Randi noted in 1978 that the fairies in the photographs looked very similar to the figures in a children's book called Princess Mary's Gift Book, published in 1915, shortly before the girls took the photographs. You can also check out the book on the Gutenberg website and compare the fairies to the figures on page 104. Later, in 1981, Elsie Wright admitted to Joe Cooper, who interviewed her for the Unexplained magazine, that the fairies were actually paper cutouts. She explained that she had drawn the fairies by drawing them from the figures in Princess Mary's Gift Book. She made paper figures from these drawings and held them together with hat pins. In the second photograph, Elsie and the dwarfs, the tip of the hat pin can be seen in the middle of the creature. Doyle noticed this point, but interpreted it as the creature's belly button, and came up with a claim that fairies give birth like humans. This fairy nonsense has managed to fool people for decades. I would have loved for Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes, who inspired the creation of many other novel characters, to have seen the outcome of this story. Another point I can't understand is how Doyle, who dreamed of a novel character who could draw great conclusions from small evidence, fell for this simple trick. See you in the next video.